Hey guys, it's ZaffreRevolution. Yes, I know, not the most riveting start to a video I've made, but I want to talk to you guys for a second. This is something new I'm doing, a spoilers discussion, because I really want to talk about this game's story more in depth and give my thoughts and reactions to most of the story that'd be considered spoilerish, but I also didn't want to include them in the review because I want my reviews from here on out to be spoiler free. So I decided to give you all a treat and give you another video on the same day and discuss some stuff that those who've already played the game might appreciate. You know, a kind of safe haven where we can discuss whatever about this game in the comments and all that jazz. This story's massive and it'd be a crime if I never got to get my full thoughts on it besides it's really good, so here you go. Okay, now that I've needlessly explained myself, let's get down to business. If you haven't seen the review I did for this game yet, which you should, spoiler alert, I really fucking love it. Everything about it is amazing, but even still, I wanted to talk more in depth with the overall experience I had with my reactions to most of the plot points. Since these are definitely spoilers, and if I combine the two videos it'd make for a freaking feature-length movie, I decided to make this its own thing. Maybe I'll do this for any game I review that's spoiler heavy or something, because I've always wanted to do something like this. So why the hell not? Let's start with my third favorite game of all time. As of right now anyways, it wasn't too long ago when that spot belonged to Persona 4 Golden, but you know. Alright, I've made you guys wait long enough with this intro and we've got a lot of ground to cover, so let's get this thing started. Before I had played this game, I watched a couple of the trailers, but the closer we got to the release, the less I watched because I really wanted to go into this as blind as possible. So it was quite a surprise to me that things started in the action unlike having a slower pace beginning. I mean, overall the pacing of Persona 5's beginning was pretty slow to be honest, but at the very start, you're thrown into the action and I found that pretty endearing and it really caught my interest. Running away from the cops while the track Life Will Change plays in the background will never get old. It was really the perfect introduction. I loved how you can see silhouettes of the characters in the corner as well, kind of like a sneak peek of what's to come. Overall, the introduction was well done, and when you unavoidably get caught at the end and the cop says that one of your friends sold you out, it really does a great job of setting the tone, and I was instantly interested because I wanted answers. The cool thing about the whole traitor scenario is that it's not the main focus of the story like Persona 4 Golden. This isn't a whodunit. It's a part of it, but the main focus on that whole part is more of how they done it and how your characters will or won't survive. Honestly, the choice is yours, and to be fair, the traitor is a bit on the obvious side because of one big hit that I didn't miss, but we'll get to that in a bit. I want to quickly say that I liked all the jail scenes because of the brutality setting in a darker tone, because to be fair, while Persona 4 Golden was a dark story, it didn't compare to the much darker previous games. It was nice that we're driving this deeper into the nitty and gritty, so yeah, lots of build up regarding the rise and fall of the Phantom Thieves, and overall the setup was extremely well done. Beginning this game with pretty much everyone hating you was also a nice change of pace. It's weird because I'm so used to being the interesting character that everyone wants to be friends with, but here you're treated like shit, and it's great. That came out weird, but it was different and a nice change of pace, having to work your way back up to being a likable character. The fact that this isn't your fault also adds to the feels. You see that you were falsely accused of assault, and it really shows how bent society is and how easy it is to get fucked over. Again, a great tone setter that's very well done in the long run. Now let's go ahead and talk about the first major arc. Getting to school and slowly but surely realizing that system's corrupt was fun. Of course, none of the teachers wanted to deal with you since you're seen as a delinquent, but then you come to the realization that Kamoshida, one of the gym teachers, is an absolute piece of shit. This guy comes off really nice, offering you a ride. He fools you, because you eventually find out he sees the school as his castle, he physically abuses the guy students, and he sexually harasses the female students, driving one to the point of attempted suicide, and it made me want to beat the absolute shit out of him. It also starts Ann's whole character because she's the girl that he wants the most due to his absolute lust for her, and you could really feel for her because she's so torn. She has to do what he wants in order to help her best friend be a part of the volleyball team, but she doesn't want to do anything against her will, you know? Which makes both Kamoshida and Ann's introduction absolutely perfect, because not only does Kamoshida offer you a ride making him come off as nice, but Ann seems cheerful to say yes, and as the window rises you can really see how miserable she is in the situation. Very subtle and detailed, something I noticed looking back at this scene. But yeah, taking down Kamoshida was nice. Getting used to the whole metaverse shenanigans and helping Ryuji and Ann stand up for themselves against the shittiest teacher ever was nice. Climbing the castle was really cool. It was a fun dungeon. A pretty long one, but it was a good change of pace in my case since I was so used to blazing through the dungeons in Persona 4 Golden. I can pretty much do all those in one day at this point, so I had to take my time here, and I was like, what is this? And that's perfectly fine with me. Kamoshida was a great first villain. I hated him, but that just meant he was doing his job exceedingly well. He honestly could have been the main villain. He was that good. One of my favorites in the game without a doubt, and that final battle with him was absolutely epic. This was the first time you heard the boss theme Blooming Villain and you feel the tension. It was also hard as hell in my case. I died quite a bit here. which was also a nice change of pace since I felt like Persona 4 Golden wasn't that hard overall. I'd say difficulty-wise, this is one of the harder ones in the series, so that's cool. Great first boss, great first dungeon, and the way they ended it with Ann choosing not to kill Kamoshida because she realized that letting him live with the guilt and weight of all his crimes as he constantly begs for forgiveness for the rest of his life is a fate much more worse than death. That was a mouthful, but yeah, the end was great. I thought that was really freaking hot, by the way, and it really helped her character in my case. It's one of the reasons why she gave me trouble deciding my best girl and my one waifu. She was close, but we all know how that story ends. Seeing the first villain get their heart changed was just glorious, and it felt great, but not without that little sour feeling which just hammers the question of whether or not what the fan of these are doing is ultimately just. I think so, but the game doesn't force the answer down your throat. It's really up to you, and I like that. The themes are there, but you can pick a side. The character interactions in the downtime between dungeons are also fantastic. This is the point in the game where everything really starts to open up to you. Now Ann and Ryuji want to start hanging out along with other side characters starting social links, and that's great. Lots of night social links this time around too, which made the nighttime in general a lot more valuable than ever before. Oh yeah, and when you can start to explore the city during nighttime and you hear the song Beneath the Mask but with vocals now, oh, it felt so good, guys. That was the point where I ran to my computer and ordered the soundtrack because damn. The social links in this game in general are so good, but there's no way I'm gonna talk about all of those in this video because I have sanity and a life to uphold. Maybe in some character analyses down the road, but as of right now, no. Lots of character development, of course, and a bunch of different arcs that all work in their own ways, giving this game the strength to compete with the others. It was also cool that you got a lot of abilities from them that would help save time and all that jazz, but I didn't finish a lot of them anyways, so yeah. A part of that though is because a lot of them were extremely demanding on stats, like Haru for example. To even touch this girl, you have to have max proficiency, which was outrageous. And to finish Makoto's, you needed max charm. And to be fair, I probably wasted a lot of my time raising my charm to max because I really wanted to romance Makoto. But come on, the party members? The demanding stats honestly should have been saved for the side characters because I feel entitled to maxing out the party members' social links in all honesty. That's all I'll say on those though. And really quickly before we get back to the main story, I love this game's Velvet Room, like, a lot. Firstly, Igor's new voice caught me way off guard if that wasn't apparent enough, but because they have a story reason for that, that was actually really cool. Plus, it made him sound a lot more intimidating since he's kind of like a god figure in this world. Definitely gave him a more demanding presence. And the Velvet twins, Caroline and Justine, are so damn entertaining since they work off each other so well. Caroline was super demanding and very Tsundere-esque, while Justine was the calm one and would also have fun teasing her sister. And it was different in the fact that they are extremely devoted to Igor, unlike the past ones who kind of strayed their own way as he got closer to them and as the story progressed. Again, this is for a story reason, which is super cool, but we'll get to that in a bit. All in all, I like that, again, things aren't so nice as in the previous game. I mean, before you were in a pimpin' limo, and now you're a prisoner to fate, so it's a nice change of pace. Also cool how everything was a lot darker in terms of getting powerful personas, being how you had to fucking put two personas in a guillotine to fuse them, which is amazing. Alright, but moving on to the second major arc, Yusuke's arc, it was a pretty good one too, but not as good as the first one in my eyes. I will say though, Yusuke's a fantastic character, being extremely funny in terms of character interactions, having a lot of development in regards to the main theme, rebelling against what everyone may think is right, and just being insanely entertaining. The villain was pretty good in his own right too, basically stealing his students' art and dumping them on the streets while he gets all the credit and money. It's diabolical, don't get me wrong, but I like the much more personal antagonist in Kamoshida's case since he's more connected to you and your school on a personal level. Not to say Madarame is a bad villain at all because he's a damn good one. We just started on such a high note and that kinda distracted me. Anyways, this arc was cool. I liked how Yusuke didn't immediately join your cause or even believe that Madarame was evil because he was taken in as a child, so seeing his eyes open up to the truth was pretty cool in its own right, along with being a bit on the emotional side since Madarame was seen as a father figure to him since his parents weren't with him at childhood. The dungeon was great, and this was when they started to get a lot more creative in terms of dungeon design. This one was a museum, it was a lot of fun to explore, the music was great, and it felt more along the lines of Phantom Thieves since you're breaking into a museum. Another great dungeon, and the boss was good here as well. Oh yeah, and that scene where Ann had to pretend like she was gonna strip for Yusuke was hilarious. It was amazing. The story is dark, but there are a lot of lighthearted moments here that aren't too blown out of proportion, and I love that. The story was, in one word, mature, and it wasn't afraid to have fun at the same time. The confession from Madarame was the point when the Phantom Thieves' popularity really started to go up too. The point in the game when things just stop and you can listen to what the people have to say, and seeing the progress of your popularity in the corner was nice, because it highlights what's on the mind of society in relation to your cause. Made for some nice downtime, and I was interested in what the people had to say, honestly. The downtime between this and the next palace also set up a lot of future plot points, like Makoto. I love how she starts off kinda against you since she's pretty much being forced to stalk you and get information on whether or not you're a Phantom Thief. Funnily enough, you can run into her in the hub world, and actually seeing her stalk you as you walk around was the greatest tiny detail ever, I must say. And then you meet Akechi. Now, clearly if you're watching this, you already know where his character goes, but I wasn't really shocked by it, because it really wasn't too hard to notice the whole pancakes thing. So I saw it and I'm like, oh wow, he can hear Morgana, I wonder why. I had my doubts though, like I knew he had the power, but I didn't think that instantly made him a villain. But later when he lies about when he first got his powers, that's when I knew, yep, this guy's the bad guy. Whoops. Again, because this game wasn't so reliant on whodunit, this didn't ruin the story or anything, and even still the direction Akechi's character goes is so good, but we'll talk about that later. When Makoto eventually confronts your team and you start her whole arc, it's great stuff. I was really shocked when it was kinda casually revealed that Sae is Makoto's sister, since she came off as one of the major antagonists since she's questioning you in prison from the beginning of the game. I was shocked. I was like, what? What is this girl doing with my best girl, my waifu? Shit like that. I mean, she doesn't turn out to be one in the end, but you know. Also, it made it kinda awkward in my case since I ended up dating the prosecutor's sister. Yeah. Makoto's arc was great, and her development from the pushover honor student to the badass chick who doesn't take anyone's shit instantly got me to say, yeah, you're gonna get romanced. I want to focus on her a bit, because I really do feel like she's the best girl. She's independent, a bit on the dorky side, has a strong sense of justice, and is passionate in each and everything she does. She has a sense of leadership while working well with others, and her interactions with literally every character made for some great scenes. There's a lot more to her character and more as to why I picked her as my waifu, but that's the general gist of it. The villain in this one was cool, having ruined the lives of many teens at your school, hustling people for money and all that jazz, but that voice though.
So, you're seriously the student council president of Shujin.
Very soothing with a hint of villainy. The voice acting in this game was great in general, but this was one of the standout moments to me. The bank dungeon was really cool as well, even if it leaned a bit on the lengthy side. Also, the pacing for the safe rooms really fucked me over here, so that was fun. For real though, this one was cool. Again, being part of a thieves group, you have to steal from a bank at some point. So it was really cool not only because of the design, but because you're part of a heist taking place in a damn bank. And that's awesome. The boss here though was a bit underwhelming to be honest, because Kanashira was definitely the easiest for me, but not bad by any means. He just kinda lost me near the end. You don't even get to see his confession, you just hear about it, and that was honestly pretty lame. Oh well, we got the best girl, so we needed something to balance this arc out from being perfect. Again, during the downtime, interactions and small scenes were all great, and because summer vacation was starting, there was a lot more free time, and in turn, more opportunities to hang out with your favorite characters. The fireworks scene was a lot of fun specifically. It was also around this time that I started to see how the government might just be involved in this and probably are the ones who ultimately fucked us over. Being that the principal talked on the phone with someone, which is why he forced Makoto to stalk us, and that the government officials would react every time a heart was stolen, it was really building up to that. At the same time, it was also building up to Sojiro getting more involved in the story, which leads us to the 4th dungeon, Futaba's Palace, or the Pyramid. This one was a goodie in this guy's eyes, one of my personal favorites. The scene before it is one of my favorite scenes in the game because it's just so fun for no reason other than just to be a fun scene, so that was really cool. The dungeon itself was fantastic. I like how you aren't inside the dungeon the whole time, but you also have to explore a nearby town as well. That was a nice touch. But seriously, the fact that this dungeon isn't ruled by someone evil, but since palaces are only made through distorted thoughts in this case, it's someone who's insanely depressed, being under the impression that her mom committed suicide due to her not being a good enough daughter. It tugged on my heartstrings the whole time, the puzzles were a lot of fun, and the music was one of my favorite tracks in the game. The part at the beginning when you're running up a huge staircase and the music just plays in the background while the characters just talk was honestly one of my favorite moments, because the downtime in the characters giving their thoughts on this whole scenario was really entertaining. It was sad, and it helps to give Futaba a lot of character development in the end. The boss was one of the best as well, since it was a distorted image of her mother, and how you had to knock her out of the sky, and the finisher was just the press of a single button to give a gunshot to the fucking head. That was badass. And the sweet scene in the end when Futaba talks to her true mom spirit, being told that she was good enough and her death wasn't what it seemed, it was great, man. I totally didn't tear up at this part if that's what you're thinking. Sojiro also gets a lot of development in this arc as well, since he's Futaba's guardian and treats her like his daughter. It's around this time where he finally starts to open up to you as well, since you're not only helping Futaba but him as well. I got really strong family vibes from the three of them, which is a huge reason I didn't want to date Futaba. She's too much of a sister character in my eyes. That and Makoto's just the best, as we know. Most of the scenes in this downtime was trying to get Futaba to interact with the world again, since she was coped up in her room depressed for so long, making for a lot of really charming moments. The character interactions, man, they're just so damn good. Futaba is a really fun character, heavy on the memes, the dorkiest of the bunch, and gives them a lot of trouble but overall means well. The beach scene was great. I mean, you can't have a Japanese game without your beach fan service, but it was nice, and the characters just talking was captivating. Also, there's kind of a mini arc where the cast goes to Hawaii for a school trip, and that was full of a lot of fun moments, just for the sake of having fun moments. That was a lot of fun. And it all ends with a nice little scene between you and a character of your choice where the two of you just spend time together. I spent it with Makoto, of course, and it was really sweet. I wasn't even dating her at the time, but I just really enjoyed that one. It also furthered my resolve to romance the fuck out of her, but anyways. Before the next arc started, Sae mentions that your testimony to this case is important because of what happened, and because the Phantom Thief's popularity is getting so high at this point, I figured that this is the point in the game where the fall of your group begins. Especially because one of your accusations in the beginning of the game is murder, so shit's about to go down. It's just a matter of when. The next arc introduces you to Haru, who's an absolute sweetheart. At least I assume, since there's no way in hell I'm getting max proficiency to start her socially. She just has to live with a shitty father who has her in an arranged marriage to a lustful douchebag and betrays anyone who gets what he wants. So, you know, she decides to, again, rebel and take the fight to him. There's also a kind of mini arc where Morgana doesn't feel like a part of the team anymore, and it was nice to see him come around as it made for a good character building plot for the main cast. But one of the things he says before he runs away is that he wishes they weren't so popular anymore, and that actually becomes a big factor here. At this point in the game, so many people message you bugging you to hurry the hell up and change the next heart. It was really interesting to see the characters react because you could kinda tell they were really split here, with some wanting to go with the hype and others realizing that they might be getting too ahead of themselves. Very interesting plot points here for sure. Anyways, as for the actual dungeon, I thought it was really good. This one, to my surprise, isn't very well liked, but here's why I like it. For one, the setting is a fucking space station, so that's already badass in of itself. The aesthetic is really creative, and being a guy who can get down with sci-fi and all that junk, this was a wonderland for me. I also liked how you had to get hints from the people on the ship in order to find out who the guards were or whatever, so you could steal the keycards from them in a battle. Otherwise, you would enter a pointless boss, and I thought that was different and very creative. The music here was really cool too. Every dungeon theme has a secondary version that plays in later points, and this one's secondary version was really catchy to me. It focused on a lot of drums and deep beats, and I found it rather entrancing. The set pieces were really cool too. Dashing along the assembly lines was a lot of fun, being a fan of speedy gameplay. I mean, I do play Sonic after all. I do think that this one went a bit too long though. I mean, at this point, I beat two of them in the shortest time possible, being the museum and the pyramid. Sadly, not the bank, since I got fucked over by inconsistent safe rooms, but you know, this one just kept going and going, and I had to do this one over multiple days. Probably could have avoided that, but it's really whatever. The boss here was a bit on the lame side though. It's an enemy gauntlet, and I get why they did it for symbolic purposes, but it's really weak. I will say though, making the actual boss a pushover was a nice touch. Demolishing him in like 2 hits was oh so satisfying. And then right as things go as they always do, you see a shadow figure shoot Okumura and kill him. So it's time for the great big fall. Overall a good dungeon, just kinda on the weak side near the end. So, yeah, after the deadline as the confession is being broadcasted, Okumura fucking dies in front of everyone, and it's a big shock and all that. Especially to Haru, since this is her first mission as a Phantom Thief, and she kills her own dad. Whoops! It's really well done and emotional, but we all saw it coming. Now people are thinking that the Phantom Thieves are murderers, and you have to do something about it. Of course, Akechi comes swooping in, giving you advice on what to do. Gee, I wonder who the bad guy is. Like I said before, this is when I was convinced that he's the villain and the traitor the game's hyping up because the build-up is just too good here, and his timing here is all part of his plan. He's pretty much got you guys figured out, but decides to join your team and help you. Massive quotation marks there. And as we all know, the next dungeon is the casino, Sae's dungeon. I instantly recognize this as the place you start the game in where the heist goes wrong, so this was it. I was pumped to see what would happen. I mean, I know who the traitor's gonna be, it's really obvious, but it's not about the who in this case, but about the how and what you'll do to survive. This dungeon is my my absolute favorite in the game. The music here is fantastic, being another jazzy piece with vocals called The Whims of Fate. Also, you can play as Akechi, and it's awesome, especially because I had him figured out and knew where he was going. I knew I was playing as a villain, and that's really fucking cool. I had him in my party for as long as I could, since I knew he'd have to leave soon. The design of the dungeon was epic. I mean, it's a casino, so there's a lot they could do with this, and they took absolute advantage of that. The whole point of this dungeon was that Saya saw court and the whole justice system as a big gamble, so you had to rig the system to win. Playing the games was a lot of fun, rigging everything to get jackpot was really cool, and all the twists and different set pieces were a lot of fun. I completed this one in the least amount of time too, because I was just having a lot of fun with it. That, and I was ashamed of my performance in the last palace, so I had to redeem myself. There was also a lot of personal stakes here, since you're taking down the girl who'd been interrogating you from the beginning of the game, and this is Makoto's sister, so lots of personal motivation on her end. The boss here was really good, being that a part of it was also gambling, but it didn't rely too heavily on it. There was a lot of strategy, you had to figure out how the system was rigged, and she was challenging in general. Very excellent dungeon all around. It might have gone on a bit too long, but it was fun the whole way through without a doubt. But then it finally happens. The same escape scenario, you get caught and you're back to where you started at long last. So now that Saya is caught up, at this point it's the whole will you get the bad ending deal, where you have to make the right choices in order to dodge the game's bad end. She says that she'll try and get you out easy and quickly if you just sell out your teammates and the ones who've tried to help you at this point. You have the choice, but it's really obvious what you should do. You know, with the game's main theme being rebellion, of course. It even asks you if you're really sure when you choose to sell out your companions, as if it wasn't obvious enough. It was a lot easier to get the bad ending in Persona 4 Golden, but not like that's a bad thing here or anything. Just wish they made it less obvious. Here it's revealed that your character caught on to Akechi from the start, and that he knows Akechi's ultimately gonna betray you, which I thought was great. Glad the game wasn't trying to make that a big revelation or anything, it's just a matter of how he's gonna live, because in just a bit, Akechi's gonna come and murder your ass. Having Sae finally see your ideals and ultimately helping you out with your plan was awesome, and it was great to see her finally come around and place her bet on you. She finally saw the light. She can make the better judgments. And you pretty much told her, wake the hell up, Akechi's obviously the traitor. The scene where Akechi walks in and seemingly murders you gives me chills, and seeing the public react to the government announcing it as a suicide was really interesting. This also proved that the government was in on the whole thing and villains, so it's Joker versus the world, quite literally. The whole plan of how you survived was well thought out in my eyes. It was a bit complex, but it works due to the rules the game's world established. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that Sojiro finds out that you're a phantom thief. Doesn't lessen his care for you though, so that's cool and whatever. And again, the party noticed the pancakes, so I'm glad they weren't trying to make that some big reveal. But now that you're alive, they do this thing where you have to hide your face in public, which was cool, but I'm a little upset that they didn't let you spend the time you would be in school doing something else. Felt like a big missed opportunity and something they should have put in the game, but anyways, none of that matters because there's one guy you've got to take down. The guy who fucked you over in the beginning, Shido, falsely accusing you of assault, turns out to be one of the major antagonists, and the game slowly building up to him being someone rising to power in the government was a bit unexpected, but cool nonetheless because now you can get sweet payback. This brings us to the next dungeon, the cruise ship. It's finally time to take on what's seemingly the game's big baddie, and this last dungeon kicks ass for me. Although my one major complaint is that this dungeon's way too long for its own good, I enjoyed all of it. There was a bit of everything, being a cruise ship, a pool area, another casino location, the outer area, so on and so forth. And hearing as many speeches in the back while that kick-ass theme played got me pumped to want to take this guy down. The further you go in, the more and more you realize that this guy's pretty much behind everything that's happened so far, including Akechi, who still doesn't know you're alive at this point. Although at the same time, the further you progress, he starts to put the pieces together and figure out that he didn't kill you, which leads to my absolute favorite boss and moment in the game, your final encounter with Akechi. Guys, this part right here is just epic in every sense of the word. It was unexpected as hell, and I just by coincidence put my party of choice together, along with healing myself up, so that was a lucky break. Because this fight was so built up, especially due to Akechi being a rival to your character, and having the same abilities as you, this fight had to be good. And surely enough, it was. The dialogue before the fight is great, and you can see that this guy got fucked by society throughout his entire life, which was a twisted way to develop his character and made him so much more interesting. This is heightened when you find out that Shido is his father and he wants to prove himself to them, and then kill him. Yeah. He's completely lost it at this point, and I love it for that. The way he shouts when he unleashes his persona is another standout voice acting moment in this game.
Allow me to show you! Persona!
just gives me chills, man. Also, this boss theme just fits this fight so well, just saying. It starts off normal with you fighting 2 powered up enemies, then beating up Akechi until he goes into his villain suit or whatever, and gets extremely powered up. This is when the fight gets more intense and from my point of view more entertaining. I loved how most of his attacks target your character because that's how Akechi is, he wants you dead, and if your character dies then it's game over anyway, so in this fight, and this fight only, I'll accept that. The way the fight ends with him sacrificing himself for your cause and realizing that even though he spent most of his life fighting for the wrong cause, he can still rebel at the last second and help the team one final time. It was a bittersweet ending for his arc, but so fitting as well. Just damn, how they handled Akechi was fantastic. I don't know if he's my favorite antagonist in the series, but he's making it really tough to choose between him and the murderer in the Persona 4 Golden. Don't worry, I won't spoil that big twist here. Finally, this brings you to the boss of the dungeon, Shido himself. This fight was badass as well. It was so highly built up, and now that it was finally time to take him down, I was so ready. The fight starting with him and these giant golden beasts was cool enough, and I thought the music was really calming yet mysterious and ominous in a sense. But then you get to the second phase when he throws away his robe and pulls out his huge ass muscles, and the song starts to have lyrics, making it the best fucking track in the game. Seriously, Rivers in the Desert, oh my god, this song is the fucking best. My favorite Persona track in general, one of my favorite songs of gaming, and it fits this fight so damn well. Shido was tough, having a ton of strength and bulk. Just his stance was intimidating on its own. There's also the fact that he gained extra turns as the fight went on, which got me more and more nervous as the fight continued. It was stressful. I was on the edge of my seat sweating the whole way through. Very tough, but not cheap in the slightest. A very solid fight and well worth all the hype and build up. Also, again, the music is so good. Just had to say it another time. Great dungeon overall, especially the end with Akechi and Shido. Those fights were easily my favorites in the game. And at the end, during the whole escaping sequence, there's a fake out death with Ryuji because it looks like he died in the explosion and everyone's really heartbroken about it, which was a really touching scene, but I knew they weren't gonna do it, and they didn't. Ryuji was fine. So then they all got mad and beat him up. I mean, that was funny and all, but in the end, that just kind of made it all like it was leading to that punchline. I swear that pun was unintentional, but I'll take it. The interesting thing is that after Shido confesses, it's kinda unsatisfying to the public because they aren't as hype as they usually are, but kinda think that it's just whatever. They're over it, and just wanna know who their next prime minister is. Because of this, you and your team realize that something's really wrong with society in general, and have to change the heart of the public itself at the heart of the mementos, which I thought was cool. There was a lot of building up to the bottom of the mementos, and it ended up playing a much bigger role than I could have expected. Seeing all the people just not care and be like lifeless beings along with the unsettling music made for a chilling vibe in the final dungeon, and I thought that was really freaking cool. There's a lot of darker vibes around this time. The world's constantly falling more and more into ruin the deeper you get in this dungeon. This will be your last job as the fan of Thieves, since this will destroy the metaverse forever if you succeed, and Morgana's starting to worry more and more that he won't get his memory back, worrying whether or not he really is human since his memories still haven't come back at this point. Everything sucks right now, and you have to do something about it. So you reach the final boss, the Holy Grail, and you get your asses kicked. Welp. This leads into a scene where the world is actually ending, but everyone seems to not care about it. All your party members are disappearing, which I found heartbreaking. Everyone's screaming as their bodies fade away, and just like that, you all die. Very emotional scene for many reasons, of course. Also, no, I totally didn't cry when Makoto died right in front of me. No, why would you think that? Then you go to the Velvet Room to be reminded by your companions that you failed and the world is fucked. This is the extent of society, so because of this, Igor's like, well, if that's it, then fuck society, and he pretty much turns on you, which was honestly the biggest twist in the entire game for me. See, Igor's been in every Persona game as a kind of a safe guy to go to, but now he's done with humanity's shit and is turning on you, which is the coolest, most shocking concept ever. Until you realize that it's not really Igor, but someone else who took Igor's appearance. That was lame. I really wish they would have stuck to Igor turning evil because that's just the biggest twist ever, and raised a bunch of questions in my head like, who's gonna run the Velvet Room now and stuff like that, but nope. Just a fake out, which sucked. I mean, if you're gonna lead me to believe this, you gotta follow through. Before he reveals his true identity though, he orders Caroline and Justine to kill you, which again was cool because I thought this was gonna be a tough as nails boss fight with Caroline and Justine against their will. Would have made for a great battle, and again, it felt like that's what they were going for, but nope. Just a story-driven battle where you can't even do anything, but just shows that your character's determined to not give up against Igor. Another missed opportunity in my book, but it was a pretty good moment nonetheless. So fake Igor is revealed to be a god named, oh boy, Yaldabouth? fucking shit. Yaldabaoth, we're calling him Yaldabaoth. And then it's revealed that Caroline and Justine are actually two halves of one person named Lavenza, who works for the real Igor that was kidnapped the whole time. But because you rebel, you stand up to the god and you're invited to challenge him one last time. This is nothing new for Persona and Shin Megami Tensei in general, but it's admittedly pretty cool that Igor wasn't what he seemed to be the whole time. There are a bunch of character scenes in JRPG norm to get them pumped up for the final battle. Then comes the final stretch. I honestly wasn't a fan of this because it's a really long gauntlet against a bunch of really tough bosses and enemies. Plus, there's no save point until the end. Great. I just ended up running back to save over and over again, which really got me out of the immersion numerous times. But I will say that society and the people becoming more and more aware of how fucked up things actually are and believing in the fantasies more and more as you went on was cool. Which brings us to the final boss. See, the whole point behind this final boss is that Yaldabaoth wants society to just go with the status quo, not wanting anything too spectacular. But because you guys are the different ones, the people fending for yourselves and doing what's different, you're a piece that he needs to cut off. Because of this, the conflict between your group and Yaldabaoth is a lot better than most of the other god final bosses. That and this boss fight in general is just really epic. I wasn't too big of a fan of it at first, but it grew on me a lot as I thought about it more and more and let it sit for a while. The first phase is alright, of course, having the best song in the game playing, but the second phase when you're fighting the towering god and surviving all those 7 deadly sin weapons, it all felt so right. And the theme is like this gradually increasing rock theme that just made the fight so much more epic. It was tough, but never too tough. And good thing too, because he had a lot of health, and I might have had to kill myself if I had to start it all over again. The finale when all society backs you up and completely believes in the Phantom Thieves was really cheesy and anime-esque, but I was into it. The final strike though was the most badass thing ever. You of course get the ultimate persona from the World Arcana and finish the boss off in one hit as you usually do, but you feel it. The theme that plays here is an orchestra spectacle before it leads into one of the most epic guitar riffs ever. And seeing your persona tower just as the god before you does, and sending that finishing move, just boy, it was awesome. Also, this means that you saved Christmas since the whole finale takes place on Christmas Eve, so that means it's time for the romantic Christmas scene, right? Well, not everything ends up being so well. Since the metaverse ends up getting destroyed, that means Morgana dies, which was really sad in and of itself. But not only that, but because you met with Sae and she levels with you, that in the end, someone needs to get arrested through all this mess, as sad as it is. So you have one more night to spend with the person of your choice before you turn yourself in as the leader of the Phantom Thieves. Makoto, you already know. I thought this Christmas Eve scene was really powerful, definitely one of my favorite scenes in the game. Your character tries to act like everything's fine, but Makoto clearly knows that something's up and you're not telling her, making the scene end on a rather somber note. It was one of the most emotional scenes in the game for me, without a doubt, and it was incredibly upsetting to see everyone heartbroken when they find out on Christmas Day that you turn yourself in without telling anyone. At this point, it really seems like this game isn't gonna have the happiest ending, but you see that your team tries everything they can to get you out, and after a couple of months, they do just that. And the best part of that is that the definitive factor that got you out was that the girl you protected when you were falsely accused of assault was the one who testified for you, ultimately saving you. The butterfly effect. It's a wonderful thing. Then Morgana just strolls in, which was amazing. He's like, I mean, I didn't really die, so I thought it'd be kind of awkward to just come back. That was hilarious, and I loved how everyone was just pissed over that. I just love this cast, man. Then that leads to the final scene before the game's true ending, the Valentine's Day scene. And I spent it with Makoto, of course. That was a sweet scene, and it's cool that Makoto said she'd be okay with being in a long-distance relationship. It was a cute scene, and they totally banged, so you got a happy ending after all. Congratulations. Finally, that leads to the ending and saying goodbye to all your max social links until finally going home. By the way, when you walk out the coffee shop for the last time and you see Sojiro wiping a tear away, that got me, man, but that's a secret, don't tell anyone I said that. And the coolest thing is that instead of getting to go home by yourself, your friends decide to drive you there so you all can go together, which was amazing. I loved that. I really thought this game wouldn't have the happiest ending, but here we are with the exact opposite. This ending's better than the other games, I mean, jeez, but I loved that. The struggle to get here was real, and to see everything come to such a great conclusion warms my cold, empty heart. And with that, we're done. That was the entire story of Persona 5. Are you still with me? Now, clearly I love this story and all the little things it does. There's so much here, but the whole way through was an absolute blast. I don't think I'm gonna start a new game plus for a while though. I've got a lot of other stuff to play, but rest assured, it will happen and I will 100% this game without a doubt. It's my third favorite game of all time, and talking about the story so in depth makes me realize that even more. But this video is already long enough as it is, my longest video yet, so I'll end it here. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this sort of story analysis and spoiler discussion. And let's talk about this even more in the comments. Hope you enjoyed this insanely long video. It was a lot of fun to make. Thanks for watching again, as always, and I'll see you next time. Stay awesome, you guys.